Welcome to my Sitecore Diaries. This Sitecore 10 .NET Developer Certification Exam Preparation Series. Today we are going to discuss Sitecore Content Serialization. As discussed earlier, we are not going to go in detail of each topic, but we are going to concentrate more on the topics which are going to help us to answer the few of the questions in the Sitecore 10 Certification Exam. So I am Jitendra Ghanekar. I am from Mumbai. I am an Sitecore architect. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and click on a bell icon to get a latest update. If you like the videos, please click on our like button. Please share it with others and do provide your feedbacks via the comments. So let's start. Let us see the basic concept of serialization. So what is serialization? So serialization is the process which converts database items to the text file. So in Sitecore, whatever items which were created, that gets stored into the database. So serialization is the process which convert those database item to the text file. So till now we were using the tools like TDS and Unicorn. Okay, so for the serialization. Okay, so serialization allows developers to easily move and share the serialized item across the different environments. I think this is basic thing. I think you must be knowing this, that why we use the serialization. You must be using Unicorn, which is free, or maybe if you have a license of a TDS, that you might be using a TDS. So those are used to move the items from one environment to the another environment. So developer develops some on their local machine, and then they move those items to the upper environment by using the serialization, by using Unicorn and TDS till now. Okay. So Sitecore has introduced Sitecore Content Serialization tool. So this has been introduced from Sitecore 10 onwards. So which can be used for the serialization purpose, and it offers two type of tools. So you do not need to use a TDS and Unicorn. So Sitecore itself has provided the Sitecore Content Serialization tool. There are two types of tool Sitecore has provided. One is a command line interface where you can use the command line, and second is the graphical user interface, or you can say a Sitecore for a Visual Studio, where this interface can be used with the Visual Studio itself. Like we have a TDS, similar kind of a concept is there. So we can use this Sitecore Content Serialization tool with the Visual Studio. Both the CLI and GUI gives the same functionality, but with the different interfaces. Like CLI use the command line, whereas GUI use the Visual Studio. So what is Sitecore command line interface? It's enables developer to communicate with the Sitecore instance from the command line. As I said, you can use the command line to do a serialization. It's fast and works extremely well remotely, which supports an optimized developer experience. So it is fast. So you might have observed the TDS or Unicorn, there is syncing will take time, does take time. But this command line interface, Sitecore says it's a very fast, okay, and it has a optimized developer experience. Sitecore CLI includes the ability, it has a commands to log in into the remote Sitecore instance to publish the content and serialize item. Whereas Sitecore for Visual Studio designed to work with a new Sitecore developer, command line tools to provide a seamless integration into the Visual Studio 2019. So it is integrated with the Visual Studio 2019. Okay, it's mirror all the functionality which is available in the line interface, but better user experience. So for Sitecore CLI, we have to first install it, and we have to understand the structure. Okay. So prerequisite for Sitecore CLI installation, there are two things which is required: .NET Core and Sitecore Management Service. So what is Sitecore Management Service? Sitecore Management Service is a package that you must download and install in your Sitecore Content Management CM instance to support the Sitecore command line interface and Sitecore Visual Studio. So this is the major a package which you can download from the download page of the Sitecore. Okay, I will be sharing the link of how to install it. We are not going to discuss how it is how you can install this. Okay, so I will be sharing that link at the end and also in the description. So first of all, you have to download it from the Sitecore. You have to download the package Sitecore.management service and install it into your CMS. Okay, so basically it's something you can relate with the unicorn also. Okay, in unicorn also we create a serialize and YML file. So similarly it creates the YML files in your project folders itself. Okay, and you can give that the default the default path is /serialization, but you can define that path, and it is also related to the model file, but you can configure. But again, this is a configurable. Okay, so there are two files which you have to remember as a for a Sitecore certification also. First is the Sitecore JSON file. Okay, so this file is basically a project configuration. So all your project configuration goes in the Sitecore JSON file. Okay, where you define your schema, module, variable, serialization. So default max relative item path length. So this is the maximum relative item path length. Okay, so you have to remember your folder structure length also. Whatever you are given, that is your maximum length. Okay, then length of your path. Then you can define here default model relative serialization path. So default is the serialization. Okay, and then there is another file like for the this is the main project configuration file, but you can define it on the module level also. Like in unicorn, again I am relating it to unicorn also. You are creating the if you are using the helix, so you are creating the YML files as per the your helix structure, right? So similarly here you can have a helix kind of a structure. Then you have, then for the model you can create a file like a name of your model .model.json. that is your for the model file. Okay, here the name is the namespace of the module. Okay, whatever model you get references to the other modules if that module is referring to other model, and items needs to be serialized. So these are the two important configuration. I think if you sort of certification exam remember that Sitecore.json is used for the project configuration, and that model.model.json is used for the module configuration. Include, exclude, and rule. Okay, so you can define include items like this. This is an example where you can give the name, the content, and the path which you want to include it. Whereas you can exclude the field, but it is available only from the Sitecore CLI 4.0 and later. Okay, where you can define exclude fields, field ID, and description. Okay, this is how you can exclude this field. So as per this _lock and updated by are getting excluded. Okay, and this you can define on the Sitecore JSON conf within the Sitecore JSON configuration, also in the model.json configuration also. Also you can define the rules for a serialization. Okay, so like this, where it is saying that if it is product/legacy, then ignore it. Okay, if it is /product, then item and descendant you can take. Okay, so this is how you can define the rules and rules. The rule system works by the first match wins principle. So meaning the when a content item matches a rule, all the subsequent rules are ignored. So if you have done few of the configuration, like in the redirection configuration also, if you use IRF file, there also the same rule gets applied. Okay, so wherever mostly or wherever this rule concept is there, first if you matches, it wins the principle and that rules get executed. So you have 10 rules, then if the first rules get executed satisfied, then that rule get executed and other rules get ignored. Okay, so let's see what are the things which we have to keep in mind when we are using the rules. Okay, do not let rule paths overlap. Okay, or if you do so, you must put the most specific rule first. Okay, remember the first match will win. Okay, rules for the parents path override rules for the children's and descendant path. Rule scopes cannot be more inclusive than the root scope. The alias property in a rule replaces the root name property. Okay, if you have configured an alias property and a scope property with an ignored value, the scope is used. Okay, so these rules are important because there might be a case in the certification exam where they will give you the configuration, and I will ask what will get executed. Okay, so remember these rules. Okay, so first is the do not let the rule paths overlap. okay, or if you are doing so, make sure that your specific rule compass rules for the parent parts override the rules for the children and descendant part. Rule scopes cannot be more inclusive than the root scope. Okay, the alias property in the rule replaces the root name property. Okay, if you have a configured and alias property and a scope property with an ignored value, then the scope is used. Okay, so if you use alias and scope, then scope will be used. So all these configurations are done in the sitecore.json configuration and the module.model JSON configuration. Okay, let's say in detail the properties, okay, for each include and the rules. Okay, so for the include, if you see a property, a name is there which is required, okay, as a string. Path is there which is also mandatory and it is also a string. Then you have a scope, it is optional one. Okay, default value is item and descendant. We will see what is item and descendant. Okay, database, it is also optional, by default it is master. It can't be web. Okay, the valid values are master and core. Max relative path length, it is not mandatory, okay, but it's a number and default value is 130. Allow push operation, it is also not mandatory, and the default value is create and update delete. Okay, so we will see what is scope, right? The scope one. Okay, so this scope, there are 5 options we have in the scope. If you give the single item, it will only serialize the content item. If you give item and children, then it will serialize item and its immediate children. Item and descendant, it will serialize content item and its all descendant item. If you give the descendant only, it will only serialize descendant item. Ignore, it will ignore it. Okay, whereas if you see the allowed push operation, there are 3 values: create only, create and update, and create, update and delete. Okay, so how it works, if you have a content item in the file system, so you have a file, you have an item in your file system and there is no item in the database, then it will create. If you give the create only, it will create an item. If you say create and update, then it will also create an item. Create, update and delete, it will create item. Okay, if that item is exist in your file system, it exists in your database, and then if you give the create only, it will ignore that thing. Okay, create and update will update that item. Create, update and delete will update that item. Okay, then if your item doesn't exist in the file system but does exist in your instance, then create only will ignore it. Create, update and update date is also ignore it, and create, update and delete will delete that item. Okay, so this is how these options will work. Okay, for the rules, path is mandatory, scope is mandatory. Okay, but the scope same values goes here. Alias is optional. Allow push operation is optional, and those all the values are remain same. Okay, let us see how the serialized item paths get created. So say assume that your item is getting created in this path, like CLI Sitecore project SRC site serialization content home products hair shampoo .yml. So basically your shampoo the item is getting created here. Okay, so first part, this C to build sites, this is the absolute base path. This is where your project is in your file system. Okay, so wherever your project is there, that path is here. Okay, then you have the serialization. This is the relative serialization path that we have checked in last slide. Okay, so that path is come here. This is where the SCS system serialization content tree item starts. Okay, then this is a content. This is basically a folder. Okay, relative include folder. This is what we have named in the folder that your content item must be stored. Okay, then you have the item here. Okay, so this is the item path: home, products, hair and shampoo. So in your configuration, you have a default model relative serialization path serialization, that is this purple color thing. Okay, that name is here. And if you have given the includes name, content is your folder, and then path, this path is your Sitecore content path. So Sitecore content home, product, hair, shampoo, this is your item path in your content tree. Okay, that's get map to here home slash product slash hair slash shampoo.yml. So this is, if you have observed, this is exactly same how the unicorn works. Okay, so let's see a few commands which will help you to install the Sitecore CLI. Again, I'm not going in how really installing the Sitecore CLI. Okay, I will be sharing that link, but here we will just go through the commands which will be used for to install this CLI, and then later also how to verify that CLI. Okay, the first is you have to go to the your project folder, then .NET tool manifest. Then you have to use .NET and you get add source -n Sitecore, and then this path is there. Okay, then you have to use .NET tool install Sitecore CLI, so that will install the Sitecore. So remember these commands. Okay, I'm not sure. See, this maybe you have to just by heart these commands. Maybe you should just go through this command. This kind of, there might be a question which will say that which command you will need to install the Sitecore CLI. So these are the commands like .NET tool install Sitecore CLI. Okay, then initialize your product. How will you initialize your project? Okay, so .NET Sitecore init will be used to initialize your project. Then install the required publishing and serialization plugin. So whatever the plugins which are required, okay, for that serialization and publishing, you have to use .NET Sitecore plugin add -n, then Sitecore devx .extensibility .serialization .extensibility for .publishing for the publishing, and serialization for serialization. Initialize your new project .NET Sitecore -h. Okay, so these are the commands. Just go through these commands. Okay, interactive login. If you want to log in using the Sitecore CLI, then .NET Sitecore login authority. Then you have your instance URL -cm. Okay, so then you have again you have to use HTTP Sitecore instance, and then my allow write true true. Okay, this is for the interactive login. Non-interactive login, again this is the command. Okay, I'm not reading it now. To validate the serialized content items and fix it, your Sitecore SCR validate and Sitecore Ser validate fix. Okay, so these are the commands. Okay, create package, this is the command for the create package. This is for the installing the package. So I will be sharing one link to how to install the CLI. In that all these commands are covered. Okay, so I'm just running through here to know that these are also very important commands. Okay, so you remember those, maybe by heart those commands for the examination. Okay, next to slide we will be discussing about the Sitecore CLI commands. Okay, which we will be using for if you are trying to use the serialization. Okay, we just run through all those commands. This we have seen. It is initialize the project configuration in the current folder. Login to Sitecore instance. Publish all the content from master database to web database. SCR Ser or serialization handles the serialization of the item. Help to discover additional option for each. Okay, so this publish will have a different options. Okay, so where you have an environment name where you can give the environment to use. Config path 2 of Sitecore.config directory, root path of the Sitecore.config directory, language is used for a language. Okay, if you want to give the multiple language, then you will separate the list of comma separated list of a language. Okay, then minus path the Sitecore item path or GUID. Okay, to smart publish. If unspecified, then the full database is published. Republish is used for a republishing. If unspecified, a smart publish is used instead. Then verbose reports additional diagnostic and performance data. Trace report the additional diagnostic and performance data. Help will give the comment. Okay, so these are the these are the commands which you can use when you will use the CLI. Okay, you can go in detail when I will share one link for the Sitecore CLI, okay, from the Sitecore itself, Sitecore documentation. You can go in detail, but remember, int is used for the initialize the project. Login is used to log into the Sitecore instance. Publish is used to publish all the content. Serialization is used for serialization. Help is used to discover the additional option. These are the important things, okay. Then the sub commands we have, okay. If you see a diff sub command, it is used for the comparing the two items, okay. Explains whether the content item path is included and why. Info shows the serialization configuration information. Package lists the serialization package commands. Package creates a package of serialized content item. Package install the package of serialized content item in a Sitecore instance, okay. Then push is serialized content item from Sitecore instance to your file system. Pushes the serialized content item to your file system to Sitecore instance. Validate checks serialized content item for validity, and if you want to fix anything, then a fix argument you can pass. Watch monitors the changes to the content item in a Sitecore instance and automatically serialize the changes to your file system. So these two, the sub commands and the main commands, okay, all these commands, okay. So these in here again we are not doing anything practically, so I think it's the only option we have is a bioting the things or remembering this all those things, okay, how we can do it, okay. If you are try to use this Sitecore CLI, then you will have a hands-on, then you will it is easy to easy to remember. If it not so, I can understand that there are many projects where we are not using all this, okay. So for the site, if you are preparing for the Sitecore certification, I think try to remember all these commands, okay. No, if you don't need to go in detail, but just remember what are these things are there. Like here, if you want to compare two items, you have to use a diff command. If you want to know what is that item path is included on why, okay, that is for the explain. Info for the serialization configuration info, you want to use the info. If you want to see what are the serialization list of serialization package command, then you can go for a package. If you want to create a package, then you have to use a package create. If you want to install the package, you have package install. You want to pull the item, pull and push, again this similar kind of terminology you use in a TDS, okay. So pull and push, okay, you use in the same thing in the TFS also, Git also, okay, pull and push. So same kind of thing here. Serialize content items from site. If you want to pull the item from Sitecore instance to your file system, then pull it. If you want to push the item from your file system to the content, then you have to push it. There is any validation required, validate. Watch, monitor the changes, okay. So remember all these CLI commands. Let us see practice questions now. Why do you use Sitecore Content Serialization for? To easily move content between different environments. What is the purpose of module.json? To set the path of the content to be serialized. What if the module is not defined in the Sitecore JSON file? If you do not define the module, then the content will not be serialized. What is true when speaking of both Sitecore CLI and Sitecore for Visual Studio? Both are same, having the same functionality, different user interface, and user can choose which one they want to use. Serialization helps to support the development experience by allowing developers to easily move and share serialized item across the different environment. The first question and this question is the same. Why would a developer create an include within the model? Why he will create an include configuration? Include help us to specify which section of the content tree if you want to serialize, okay. If a developer created an include that serialize all items starting at an item called sample items and wanted to specify that this include should serialize all items and descendant of the item, which include property they use to indicate. So he want to serialize all the items including the descendant items. So he has to use the scope property. Okay, remember item and descendant, so you have to use the scope property. If you create a module within with a path that does not match one of the paths set in the Sitecore JSON file, what it will be the outcome? The model will not be included when you run the serialization. If there is if the path is not matching, then that will not get included into the serialization. What are the two tools for the serialization? CLI, that is command language interface, and then Sitecore Visual Studio. What file is generated with Sitecore CLI? .NET-tool.json. Okay. What is .NET-tool.json? Shows the version as well as the command that you can use to access the functionality of the CLI. What is Sitecore command line interface? It enables developer to communicate with the Sitecore instance from the command line. It fast works extremely well remotely, which supports the optimized developer experience. The Sitecore CLI includes the ability to log into the remote Sitecore instance, publish content, and the serialize items. Okay, this is the first slide only we have seen this. What are the CLI command? It login authenticates the CLI to Sitecore instance. Plugin manages the plugin command. Ints create a Sitecore configuration in the current directory. Index working with the index data. Item raise resource item package commands. Serialization item serialization command. Publish performs a publish operation on all content. Okay, I think the index working with the index data. So this I think we have not seen it, but you see you can use the index also. Item raise resource item package commands also we can use. How should you persist your items in the source control? By serializing them. How they will get serialized will depend on the tools you have at your disposal. So how will you put those items in source control? You just serialize and put those items into the your source control. What process is used to write a database rows of a Sitecore to file on the disk? What process is used to write database rows of Sitecore to file on the disk? It's a serialization. What is Sitecore for Visual Studio? Again, this is also we have seen, designed to work with the new Sitecore developer command line tools to provide a seamless integration into the Visual Studio 2019. Its serialization functionality mirrors that of the Sitecore command line interface with the addition of the ability to easily create modules, include rules and so on by using the graphical interface. The CLI and Sitecore for Visual Studio offers the same feature with a different interface. You can choose the serialization environment you are the most comfortable with. So CLI, Sitecore CLI and the Sitecore for Visual Studio both offers the same functionality. There is no difference. This only difference is the way you are using the GUI is different. Okay, CLI you are using command line, whereas Visual Studio you are using the inbuilt Visual Studio. The Sitecore Content Serialization tool allows you to choose the option you are most comfortable with a command line interface or a graphical user interface. I think both the things are same, the different way it is presented. Which problem does SCC solve? Sitecore items are created. So SCC is basically Sitecore Content Serialization. Okay, Sitecore items are created and updated all the time, and these changes must be synchronized across the Sitecore instance between the developer working on the Sitecore solution. So in the same way as they will share code. Okay, so whatever changes which you are making on your local environment, that needs to go into the higher environment. The way you are making the code changes, that is stored in your repository. Similarly, your items also needs to be moved. Okay, so however the process of synchronizing item changes in prone to error, time consuming because of the limited automation facilities. SCS addresses this with out of item box functionality, item serialization, that let you automate a synchronization of item changes. So to make this automated, your Sitecore have provided SCS, and it also provided commands so that you can automate it. What are the benefits of using command line interface over a Sitecore Visual Studio? Sitecore command line interface is command line interface that interacts with Sitecore instance. This provides an increased automation. Okay, as I said, it's used for automation and version control. Sitecore for Visual Studio is a graphical tool that interacts with the Sitecore instance within the Visual Studio. SVS provides the same capability as Sitecore CLI, but it is intended for users who are not familiar with the command line tools. Okay, so basically command line interface is mostly used for, it is used for the the automation, and the Visual Studio is something where users are new, the developers are new, they are not aware about commands. Okay, CAS command line queries like you does for the Windows command and log. If they are not aware, then the Visual Studio is useful. In practical sense, if you are using the Unicorn, then your CLI will be very useful. If you are using the TDS, you have hands-on on TDS, I think the Visual Studio will be more useful. What functionality does TDS offer that is not in SVS? Okay, this is also very important question. Okay, TDS offers the file deployment into the local Sitecore instance that is not into the SVS. The WDP generation is not there. Code generation is not there. Validators are not there. Environment validations are not there. Does Sitecore CLI work on a Linux machine? No. Okay, study materials and vital links. So there are not much content I have found, but you can see that there is a video from SCG Pune, then SKTech, then there is a video from the Sitecore. Okay, which you can, these are the 3 videos which I found good, so you can have a look on those for the serialization. Then I think the best thing we have is in the Sitecore only. If you talk about the Sitecore content serialization content, I think the Sitecore has the best articles, so you can go through this. There are few articles which I have written on my blogs where I have explained how to install the CLI also, so that also you can have a look on it. Also, there's another article which I have seen which will also explain it very well, so that also you can check. So all these links I will be sharing in the description. So we are done for today. If you have any question, you know where to connect. This is my Gmail ID, this is my LinkedIn ID. In the next Sitecore serialization series, that might be our last video, it will be on the container. So we will be discussing the container and a few practice questions related to the containers. If you like my video, please click on a like button, please share it with others, and please do comment on the video and provide your feedback. There are almost 70 to 80% of not 80%, but around 78% of viewers who are not subscribed to the channel. So please subscribe to the channel and click on a bell icon to get a latest update from my Sitecore Diaries. Thank you. Thanks for watching my video. Thank you.